Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi has taken the stand again today to give his testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry into alleged interference in South Africa's criminal justice system.
Evidence that shows police officers that are involved, as well as some people within the higher office of our justice system, which are in courts, that include prosecutors that are involved with these criminal syndicates operating in South Africa.
From page 56, you deal then with the allegations as they relate to politicians. And just to give us context, at 56, you break up politicians into two groups. The one is headed Parliament at page 56, and then at page 61, there is a subheading, the executive. You confirm that?
That's correct.
And so far as Parliament is concerned, you raise concerns regarding two members specifically in this.
That's correct.
You had stated that in your paragraph, I think you had indicated that in respect of each category, you will highlight one instance or one person who falls under that particular category. But it should not be understood that the complaint is confined specifically to the one person. So when we deal with politicians, much as you highlight two here, your contention is that the problem spreads beyond the two and that there are actually more. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that the evidence of subsequent witnesses to follow will deal with the detail of the other persons per category. Is that the approach adopted?
That's correct.
With that in mind, then let's turn to page 56 under politicians, and specifically Parliament. Please explain the contents of your paragraph 165. You explain how you intend to deal with this issue.
On this specific paragraph, Commissioners, I want to focus my address in part to the role that is played by Mr. Fadiel Adams, who is a Member of Parliament. And in briefly, I will also touch on the role played by Ms. Colin Barnett, who is a member of Democratic Alliance.
At 166, you summarize the concerns you have regarding Mr. Adams.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Can you read that into the record so we appreciate?
The main concern with Mr. Adams are mainly two. The first one is the unauthorized access to the intelligence information and his reckless use thereof. The second one is the abuse of his...
Apologies, General. At this stage, because there are specifics about individuals who, according to the General, are implicated, I think I should place it on record and make this public announcement.
Yes, Chair.
That because of time constraints, as I understand from
Indeed.
the evidence leaders, and on my understanding, the statements having been finalized the day before the hearings, it was not practical for implicated notices to go out timeously and before the hearing. But the evidence leaders have undertaken that notices will go out. Transcripts of the evidence relevant to each implicated person will also be sent out to the implicated persons. So in that sense, the implicated persons will not be prejudiced.
Indeed,
They will
Chair.
be able to have a look at the evidence that has been laid, and indeed even the statements themselves will be shared with the witnesses for them to consider their positions and to address the implication insofar as it relates to each one of them as best they can. So they will be afforded a full opportunity as to how to address what implicates them. Am I recording the position correctly?
Absolutely correct, Chair, I confirm. And to point out that the provision of the rules, which require us to the extent that we are able to notify of implication before the witness is led. This is one of those rare instances when it was not possible. As the Chair will recall, the witness's statement was dated the 16th of September, which is the day before we started. They were prepared. The difficulty was the service in that short period of time, so they were struggling with service. Had we insisted on complying with that aspect, then we would have had to postpone the hearings, and we understood that was a factor
that was a no-no.
Indeed, Chair. So it's in those circumstances that we found ourselves having to lead General Mkhwanazi without the notices having been received by the respective persons. And we do undertake, as the Chair correctly points out, to provide all the facts and material that support the implications that General Mkhwanazi advances to each specific person that is dealt with in General Mkhwanazi's statement, as soon as his testimony is done, Chair.
You may continue, General.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was still reading the second concern that I have, the abuse of his seeming influence on the police structures at the highest echelon.
So you deal with the first part, with the first concern, which is unauthorized access to intelligence information and his reckless use thereof, from paragraphs 168 to 163. If you could just highlight to the commissioners what your concern is and why you contend that he had unauthorized access to intelligence information and that he dealt with such information in a reckless manner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Maybe before I continue this, I think it's important to remind the Commission and the public in general on my opening comment yesterday, which is on my statement, I think it's on page 6, where I indicated that as the police are investigating and we analyze information that is presented and evidence before us, a certain picture or a particular trend emerges. And that trend forces us to investigate further. So as we investigate further, we begin to see a certain trend that we pick up that is involved in that criminal investigation we're conducting. Once we see that picture, then in this case, the picture that we see that seems to undermine the administration of justice in the Republic. It is for that reason that we then are in this state here before the Commission to try and explain the picture that we've been seeing, so that one doesn't wonder or question, why do we jump to that specific politician? It is due to this analysis and investigation that we are conducting that brings us to these individuals, so that we can flag and see for the Commission to assist us whether our conclusion is justified or not. But we are convinced that it is justified, that what we are presenting. So Mr. Adams appeared to have came into the position of an intelligence information. And this information is classified on its nature that Mr. Adams should not be in possession of. So it is an information that is intended for another structure of parliament, if it comes to his possession And as a lawmaker, as a person who is serving in parliament, he ought to know that when I'm in possession of information from crime intelligence that is classified, it must be handed over to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence so that it can be interrogated, regardless of the status of that information. So that is expectation that one has towards a lawmaker, such as Mr. Fadiel Adams, who is currently serving in Parliament. Because this classified information we are referring to here, it's involving personal information of individuals that is deposited at crime intelligence or extracted by crime intelligence when the crime intelligence is conducting the vetting process for security clearance for individuals. It's a very sensitive information because it digs deeper to your personal information, your relatives, your criminal records, and everything that the state wants to test in order to confirm whether you qualify to be given a security clearance certificate or not. Such a clearance will then allow you to be in possession of sensitive material. The same applies to the members of the Joint Standing Committee in Parliament. It is only those members of Joint Standing Committee in Parliament that are vetted, and their information is in the disposal of this intelligence structure. And once they pass that vetting, certificates are issued to them, and that is the entry for those politicians to become members of the Joint Standing Committee. It is not open for everyone. So Mr. Adam, unfortunately, does not serve in the Joint Standing Committee. I do not know what is the reason that he's not part of the Joint Standing Committee. Perhaps that he might be able to answer himself. But in this regard, we know that he serves in the Portfolio Committee of Police, which is an oversight structure of government, and he's there as a public representative that holds us accountable on how we perform our function as a police on an open account of this that is allocated to the South African Police Service. But on the use of any funds on the secret account, the accounting role for that is within the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence as regulated by the National Strategic Act of Intelligence that regulates how matters of state secrets must be handled, including the budget, resources, and otherwise. So Mr. Adam is not part of it, but recklessly he handles intelligence information not only within Parliament, but he takes it out to the public.
Understanding your concern then, and you pointed out that he does not sit on the Intelligence Committee within Parliament.
May I ask this of you, Ms. Sillo? To what term of reference does this testimony relate?
It relates to the second part of what he'll be dealing with, which speaks to the concern about, it's basically access to unauthorized information, and as a parliamentarian, dealing with that information in a manner inconsistent with the position he holds. But then it leads to the second aspect at 166.2, which is the use of that same information to abuse his seeming influence on the police structures at the highest echelons. That will then lead to, quote unquote, triggering a process through the Minister of Police to take certain steps that the general believes is abuse of office and it interferes with the workings of the police. The chair will recall that when General Mkhwanazi started and explaining the various arms of government, of the police, he referenced crime intelligence, which though is located within the police, it is regulated in terms of the Intelligence Act. And it is the abuse he believes is perpetrated by some people.
Maybe let's leave it.
Okay.
Perhaps at some stage, whether it's when you make submissions
Indeed.
or after all the evidence has been laid, we will see how the strings will be pulled together.
I'm
Maybe
happy-
let's
I'm happy with
leave
that
it.
approach.
But I've raised the question.
Yes,
yeah.
it's noted, Chair. My question to you, General, was how then would you suggest this specific parliamentarian ought to have dealt with that information?
Well, as a parliamentarian who is a lawmaker, it's a person that's supposed to know the law. The National Intelligence Act is the law that lawmakers must know and comply with. It would be expected that he knows that this information, it's an information that's supposed to be deposited to a different structure or an oversight body of Parliament, and so that it can be handled with sensitivity that it deserves. But unfortunately, he did not do that.